2462.
Yes.
Why are you choosing the approach to amend? In October 2024, you all joined organized labor and the Galamsey coalitions all over the place, anti-Galamsey coalitions all over the place, to call for the revocation of that process. And on the 10th of October 2024, there was this document under the hand of Godfred Yeboah Dame, the Attorney General. Then I read it to you. It's titled Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserve Revocation Instrument 2024. And it says that please find attached a copy of the Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserve Revocation Instrument 2024, which has been dated and signed by the Minister responsible for Environment. Kindly arrange for the instrument to be laid in Parliament in accordance with Clause 7 of Article 11 of the 1992 Constitution. And you supported this. So why, I mean, you, the NDC, supported this. Why this new, approach of amendment, which the people who called for the revocation say is not the way to go?
Our whole support was to stop licenses, new licenses. Listen, you've already given big mining companies leases in forest reserve. And you already know these big players. The world's #1 mining company is right in Ghana's forest reserve. I mean, think about it. They've invested billions of dollars. I mean, you are going to pass a law to all of a sudden overnight to say that all your investment, forget it. We are simply saying this, that when you look at the law, all the function, and I was the deputy minority leader at the time. We came to Parliament and was clear to the EPA and the Environment Committee that, and look at the day that this was brought. It was brought at a time where, frankly, and I'm trying not to go into that political, the government was basically at a point where their back was in the corner, they were in trouble, and they politically wanted to do something. But when they came to Parliament, it became very clear that this amendment must really protect the EPA's authority to still continue this very important work in this forest reserve. So what we are all talking about, and this is what we all agreed, is that there should be no new mining in forest, and that we should take the president's power to authorize leases in forest reserve. And says that's exactly what, and I think that unanimously that's what we all agree. The reason it's been laid is that everybody agrees that that's where the problem is. And that's what we are doing. So I don't think...
We have heard from Abu Jinapo in the House, for example, suggests that this is not what to do. What to do is to...
So you should have asked me, are you saying that we should now prevent the EPA from entering for... the day we take the EPA power, it means that they will not have the power to enter forest reserve to even do their important environmental supervision.
Let me bring Awula Sewa, who is coordinator of the Eco-Conscious Citizens. They are part of a number of groups that have actually brought a memorandum to the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament. They, together with Erocha Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, Nature and Development Foundation, the CASA Institute Ghana, the Braze, the Civic Response, and Tripon Boss Ghana. Awula, thank you very much for your time. Listening to the minister who is leading this charge, are you convinced that something different will happen? Where the president put his presidency on the line, and this is where we are. It got worse.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I believe the minister means well, but then I have to say in very clear terms that we are greatly disappointed. When His Excellency, the President, was in opposition, he clearly said that he would revoke LI 2462. What the minister is telling us was known to the president at the time. He knew that certain companies had made investment, but he took into consideration the greater good of Ghanaians, our forest reserve being destroyed. And we all talked about water is life and the importance of forests that have been there for decades because our ancestors were not as wicked as we are to destroy the forest reserves. And he said he would revoke. And now we see something else happening, an amendment. This is reminiscent of somebody saying he'll put his presidency on the line, and then things go from bad to worse.
Tell us what difference it makes. The amendment and the revocation, what difference does it make? I've seen your memorandum, your 10-page memorandum speaking to that issue, but quickly help us appreciate that.
Very, very quickly, what a revocation means is that you take away the whole thing. You don't retain any part of it. As it stands right now, LI 2462 still allows mining in forest reserves. LI 2462 has removed some of the protections. Under the old law, at least in production forest reserves, you could not mine on more than 2%. So what we are doing right now with LI 2462 is even taking away that protection, and you can mine almost unfettered access. So this is a very bad law, and it was able to be passed because there was no proper consultation. It was clandestinely done.
He's saying that it is this LI that gives the environmental officers the power to do the work they do to assist to prevent galamsey in the place. So if you do an entire revocation, you have taken the power away from them. That's what he's saying.
That is not the case. I believe we are being misled by whoever is advising the president. That is not the case. You have laws in force already. The duty of the Forestry Commission is to protect our forests.
They can't go to
and
forest reserve.
They try to take all steps.
Forest and permit.
The LI 2462 is not what gives protection to our forests. In fact, it was perversely named Protection of Forest Reserve. What it's really doing is destroying our forest reserves. The EPA have the mandate irrespective of LI 2462. So let's not deceive ourselves that by removing LI 2462, we've removed the power of the EPA. That is absolutely not the case. Absolutely not the case. What we are rather doing for most people is that it's slightly disingenuous. You have agreed to remove the whole law completely.
Let me come in.
You have passed a law that completely bans mining in forest reserve, but with full consultation and discussion. Organizations like AROCHA are excellent civil society organizations. They've been there for a very long time. They are very much into conservation. You cannot do something like that, excluding them from discussions. So let's be absolutely clear. The president had all the information when he said he will revoke. He knows the difference between revoking and amending. We want the whole law, which is perverse, to be done away with so that we no longer have a law that's allowing damage to our forest reserve. And let me add this. Yesterday, we were planting trees. Fantastic. What's the point of planting trees? That when your forest reserves, where the forests have been there for decades, you are happily supervising their destruction. What would be the point? We still have EI 144, which declassifies parts of Achimota Forest. That's the last remaining forest reserve in Accra. So it's like, one step forward and maybe 5 steps back. Let's do what we said we'll do so that you can restore confidence.
Right. The Minister will respond to your concern quickly, but Minister, hold on for me. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, thank you very much for joining us also. What do you say? Listening to the Minister, do you get the confidence that something different is going to happen? At least since they assumed office, they have deployed the military, they have gone into these places, they have seized hordes of excavators and chamfan machines. Does it look like I have seen this before to you, or it means more than that?
Yeah, good morning, Samson, to you and to the Minister and all those who are watching us. I am hopeful but skeptical, and I think Awula makes excellent points. It is interesting. The analogy I would use, since there was a fire in Kumasi yesterday, is that our house is on fire, and the minister is effectively saying, don't start new fires. But we already say that the level of burning is a crisis. It sounds like we should be quenching the fires. So respectfully to the minister, I think he and the president means well. But I think we should follow what Awula suggests, that maybe we should revoke the LI and then have Parliament properly go through hearings in which it will consult the necessary experts and then put in place a new regime. But whatever the new regime is, I think there must be substantial reduction in the illegal, because otherwise the destruction of the forest will proceed apace. I was going to ask the minister whether those who issued the revoked licenses, because the revocation suggests that there was something improper, would face accountability. That would be my first question. And I also think that maybe this requires a bipartisan approach. I'm sure he and the president means well, but my firm conviction is that this cannot be done effectively without a bipartisan approach, which is what maybe bringing in parliament and bringing in the stakeholders will bring. So I want him to elaborate on how we're making this bipartisan so that with the approach of the next election, all of a sudden people won't panic and abandon all the nice ideas he's suggesting. And my third point would be, so if we are having this discussion in a year, what are the measurables that he will be expecting so he can declare success?
Great.
But I'm skeptical, and I think Awula makes excellent points.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on briefly. I'll return to you. Yes.
Thank you very much. I think that they make very, very important point. But I still go back to the earlier point I made. The Forestry Commission, anybody who wants to enter that forest will need a forestry permit. This LI allows the EPA to enter this forest without the Forestry Commission's permits, to inspect, to do their work. So that in the discussion, the question came up, if you revoke this whole LI, what happens to the power of the EPA to enter this forest? Then they will be at the mercy of the Forestry Commission, who will now say, okay, well, we decide. So this discussion took place. But we realized that the most important point is that we can't allow, just imagine how many licenses were issued in forest reserves, even in the face of when we were talking about the crisis. And so that, we said, listen, anytime you are passing a law, just remember that not everybody will come and his name will be a good lawyer who will be very diligent. Somebody will come and just, so make sure that we take this power completely. And the president says, please take my power away, my power to authorize mining forest reserve. And then allow the EPA to do this work. I think that these points that have been made can be taken on board, but we need to do this first. This is critical. We need to do this first. I am sure if there has to be earlier discussions about packaging the EPA rule and bringing in a new law that says that this is not the EPA's power, and then maybe in that process, that's a discussion that can be had later. But immediately, this LI, the most critical point in it is to stop awarding, allowing anybody, authorizing anybody that they have the power to give anybody licenses in forest reserve. We must stop it. We have done some mistakes in the past. I'll put it this way. In hindsight, I mean, really, one of the reasons why, for the longest time, I never heard anything about mining in forest reserve until the big players entered there. And Ghanaians were like, so why are these people there? Then we too can go there.
But that law only came in 2022, November.
Well, I'm saying to you, this one.
The law you are seeking to amend or...
But that's what we are taking off.
Yes.
No,
that's the power that was given to the president on the basis of what the law called national interest, to allow people to enter the forest and mine.
How did we get a few mining companies to have concessions in forest reserve in the 90s? We did. That's the point I'm making. Okay. I'm talking about that. I'm saying that we opened that in the 90s to allow mining forests. I think, and then we are seeing the consequence. That's why we are stopping it.
Right.
If there has to be a discussion on how we allow EPA to work, we can't stop their work right now. Because their work is an
that's the point you have made. So hold on.
But the important, he also made some point that I was trying to, I think he asked whether those whose lines are revoked will face some penalty. I think that it will all be part of the review.
Right. But substantively, Dr. Kennedy is asking, how are we going to measure what you have achieved in time, all the things you're talking about? Hold on for me. So, Aula, once again, the question is, the campaign that you, civil society, and particularly these earth-conscious organizations, green-conscious organizations waged, it was to remove the power that had been given to the president in 2022 for people to be able to mine in forest reserve. This process is going to remove exactly that. It's going to do exactly that, remove that power. So what changed?
I think, you see, there have been a lot, with respect, there are lots of red herrings. And the discussions that were being had were part of the red herrings. Let's be very clear. Section 3.1 of the perverse LI 2462 allowed the president, by giving written consent, to permit mining in globally significant biodiversity areas. The whole of our forests are not globally significant biodiversity area. So what has been done is to remove that power. But that doesn't mean that it's stopping mining in forest reserve. Let's be very clear. It's only removed the power of the president to allow mining in globally significant biodiversity area. The rest of the forest, you're giving virtually unfettered access for mining, and that is completely wrong.
I will humbly submit that with the repeal of this law, anybody...
You're not repealing it, you're amending a portion.
With the amendment of this LI, anybody who enters a forest reserve is an illegal miner. It must be dealt with.
Respect.
Who is giving them the authorization to enter any forest reserve? Who is giving them the authorization? No institution in Ghana, after the amendment, will have the power to do exactly that. No institution. But what we are saying is that if we repeal this whole 2462, it will be caught up, and the environmental agencies that are doing the very important work that you cherish will now not have any power to enter any forest reserve, to do any environmental assessment.
Unless they have permission.
Permission from the Forestry Commission. Unless they have permission from the Forestry Commission. So let's have a post-amendment discussion on the way forward on this matter.
With the greatest respect, Honourable Minister, with the greatest respect, I believe you mean well, but I believe you are being misled. First of all, let's be absolutely clear. It's the mandate of the Forestry Commission to protect our forests. And it is absolutely not the case, that when you revoke LI 2462, then the EPA cannot go there. Let's be clear. I like the analogy that Dr. Kennedy gave. Our house is burning. We need to put out the fire. We need to ensure that this perverse piece of legislation goes, because all that you have done is to remove the part about globally significant biodiversity area. The rest of the forest licenses can still be granted as we speak. So what we are saying is that revoke the law, revoke it, and then we can sit down with proper consultation, having the right people at the table to see how we can pass another law. But we need to stop mining in forest reserve. And I find it very interesting that we are talking about the investment that some companies, I think 4 billion, have made in mining in forest reserves. Compare that 4 billion to the health of Ghanaians. Compare that 4 billion to how much it's going to take to reclaim.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, Dr. Kennedy's questioning about in the next how many weeks, how many months, what are the targets you are setting? How are we going to hold you to account? How are you going to